there. In today's podcast, we're diving back into the art of delivering tough messages and unlocking the secrets to communicating bad news with confidence and compassion. Barb and I will explore the most vital human skill for turning difficult conversations into opportunities for growth. And we will debate the infamous yuck sandwich. Is it really effective, or is it just a long-winded distraction? So get ready to level up your communication game and transform how you handle these challenging moments. Are you ready to skill up? Let's go. Hello, Barb. How are you doing?
Hi.
Let's jump right in. We had such a great time during our during our last podcast, and we had so much to cover that we had to arrange a second one, part two. And there were so many things that I didn't get a chance to ask you. And we talked about delivering bad news and the way to do it without damaging the relationship. And I'd like to just jump right in and ask you, have you had an experience where maintaining the relationship was a critical concern when delivering difficult messages? And this is from your background as a mediation expert.
Sometimes, definitely, sometimes people in mediation, people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to face up to the reality that part of the problem could be them. And so in mediation, I don't necessarily deliver the bad news myself. The purpose of a mediator is to facilitate that discussion. And so sometimes people are having to come to terms with the reality that their behavior has offended somebody else, has disrupted the relationship, has disrupted the productivity. And sometimes, in some instances, it is the delivery of that news that has exacerbated a conflict. So I've done mediations where a leader has not delivered news well and it hasn't landed, and it's created massive tension between the two people. So there's lots of variables in my situation as a mediator where I'm either seeing it within the mediation or that communication and previously has created the conflict that now needs to be mediated. So yes, it's a really common conflict issue that just it fuels those tensions and the lack of productivity because of poorly handled communication in delivering uncomfortable, bad, inverted commas, for bad news.
In these situations, what would you say could have been avoided?
It's what you and I talk about, Cecilia, is that
Mm,
to manage those difficult situations, the best thing a leader can do is apply that active listening. And I think also what you know through Luminous Spark is that we overextend in stressful situations. We over apply our default style of communicating, and that can backfire. So we need to find a little bit more of the balance. So turning down our default and turning up something that we don't normally use is really, really helpful. Where I think most people fall down is they stop listening and they stop being curious. They get stuck in their lane of this way is the only way, this is the only narrative. And so they're not able to shift perspective and see things from a different point of view. So, what helps, what people can remember in those moments, because they are stressful delivering bad news or having to confront people, is to apply curiosity. If you remember nothing else, just be curious rather than telling somebody something. Think, what's the question that I can ask so that I have a deeper understanding of this situation? Because right now, I can just see it from this point of view, and you look nuts. You look unprofessional. You look like you're not doing your job, and I want to let you know that. So we want to be able to see what else is going on. How can we flesh out the story here?
that's excellent advice and
What about
so
you,
powerful.
Cecilia? What about from your point of view with the understanding, particularly like when I talk about luminous spark, about can you explain perhaps what overextension means?
Great. Yeah, I would love to. You mentioned luminous spark, and I could talk all day. So, an overextension is when a strength becomes a liability because of stress and being under pressure. So, somebody who is a great listener when under pressure can become frozen and immobilized and not even being able to hear because there's this extra pressure on absorbing all the information. So they're not even able to truly listen to what's in front of them. So overextensions are interesting. And the one way to overcome, and a very easy way, is to make sure that the individual stays grounded. And how does one resource themselves to stay grounded and stay level headed? Because nothing ever good happens when someone is reacting, and especially reacting from an emotional standpoint. So it's really important to be able to take a step back, take a deep breath, and maintain that groundedness. It's easier said than done. And you and I have both been in those heated situations where there's a knee jerk reaction and we're just reacting, just pure human reaction. So, at the leadership level and at a professional level, even more important to practice grounding exercises. And we share a lot of these in our resilience courses
And the
where we discuss 23 tips and tools, we can share with people. Taking a very simple, long, deep breath will help with that.
And you and I also use the term self-regulation as well. It's another term. I think psychologists use that term a lot as well, is being able to, and I just think of it as a dial. Sometimes it's or a temperature gauge. It goes, how do
Mm,
we bring it back down? How do we stop the nuclear reactor going off in those situations to then have to mitigate damage that occurs from doing that? And I think we've all been in those situations. I've even been in those situations recently where I've regretted my behavior or my communication afterwards because I've been quite volatile or spontaneous. And that's my overextension in terms of personality style. It is wanting to really be out there and really be confrontational. So I have to wind that back as well.
yes, yes. Being purposeful, being logical and direct, those are very good in discussion situations, but when overextended can become overbearing, can become arrogant, can become pushy. So it's knowing when you cross that line and
Mm.
having the emotional maturity to recognize. So there's a great quote by Viktor Frankl, which is Viktor Frankl, author of The Search for Meaning, which is
I've got
between
that book.
stimulus, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is the opportunity to choose your response.
Yeah.
In that choice is where lies your greatest growth.
Yes. Yes. Oh, can you say that again? I want to hear that quote again. That was so good. Read it again.
Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is an opportunity for choice. And in your choice lies your greatest growth.
Yes. And I love the word choice. There's two things that I love about what you said. One is about the line where you cross the line. I think that's boundaries is one of those important things. In mediation, it's a term we often use because people relate to that. Where did that person cross the line? What kind of behavior can you tolerate and what can't you tolerate? What will you accept? What won't you accept? So it's getting clear on those lines to be able to then have some negotiation points. And I think the other, in that quote, what I really love is the word choice. That's really empowering. And it is when we have choice that we feel more in control of our emotions and behaviors. I'm going to misquote this, but one of the most famous quotes is the Serenity Prayer that is used by Alcoholics Anonymous, which is,
Yes.
and I can't remember the quote, but God grant me the serenity to
Grant
know.
me this grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can and the wisdom to know the difference.
Oh, well done, Cecilia. It's such a well-known, I think everybody's seen it on the back of their nana's toilet door or something. Like it's such a famous prayer. But there's such power in that, is just to, in those moments of emotional crisis or in those challenging situations, to focus on what's within our control and what's not. But the power of that is in the choice. And
Mm,
my mentor, Dr. Judy Hinwood, said, sometimes choosing not to choose is a choice.
mm,
Sometimes not making a decision in the moment is a choice that you can make as
yes,
well. Yeah.
yes, yes. So we need to remember this the next time we're in the middle of a heated discussion with somebody, that there's always a choice. And back to that original question on how to maintain the relationship, one of the things that I recommend to my clients, if they're about to go into a potentially combative conversation or one that could lead to a heated debate, and that is to stay curious. You already said it. And it's very hard to stay curious if you're under attack.
Mm.
So we teach this in assertive communication training. If you're under attack, do not accept it. There's no tolerance for verbal attacks, unprofessional language. You draw the line. But in those instances where an attack is shrouded with pleasant words, but it's in the tone or there's accusations. This is where and you have a lot of experiences in mediation. I can see you nodding. This is where truly your emotional maturity and your emotional resilience skills will come in, is to stop. Do not take it personally.
It's really hard to
It's,
do
it is,
when
it
someone's
is
going,
hard.
"You're just a manipulating control freak. You're a power, hungry." If you've got a manager going, you know, you need to improve in these areas, or we need to work on whatever the message is that they're giving, and somebody goes back going, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," and getting really emotive and volatile. I talk to
Yes,
people about it being a punch, a verbal punch. Someone's
yes,
punched you verbally and
yes,
emotionally, and of course you want to go and punch back. That's
yes,
our immediate knee-jerk reaction. So it is really
exactly.
hard when someone says, "Don't take it personally." It's like, that was really personal.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. Thankfully, that doesn't happen these days. It's just uncommon. On the rare occasion it does, we definitely coach people on how to handle, not after the fact, is in preparation for something like that. But thankfully, it's so rare that someone would communicate like that in a professional setting. But my recommendation to clients is to go in and just prepare yourself. Put yourself into an energetic bubble, like one of your tools, the cylinder, just to protect yourself from the negative energy and to take deep breaths. If you know that it has the potential to be combative, then just remove yourself, give yourself that physical, energetic distance. Know that it's not about me. It's because this person has been under a lot of stress. It's because this person has been going through ABC, and and this is something I predict might happen. Then you can, one, not make it personal, not make it about you. Two, step back and be able to use the tone that can generate more of a response, as in, I'm curious about what brought that on.
Mm,
I Please help me understand, what is the emotion behind that.
mm,
I just want to make sure I understand what you are saying. So active listening is key here, but ensuring that you're coming from a place of curiosity will help diffuse. And you were talking about de-escalation strategies. This is
mm.
one of them.
Yeah, and in mediation, it's true. Those kind of situations are rare. However, when they do occur, if they happen in the
Mm,
workplace, they do lead to mediation. Like somebody will take serious offense at someone being that volatile,
yes.
understandably, and that then becomes a formal complaint that could, and sometimes does lead to mediation. or it is in the mediation where people are being that volatile. So the purpose of the mediator is to facilitate those conversations. So what I'm able to do in support of that is do the bit of the work for the person that's being attacked in terms of unpacking what's going on there. So if someone's being really volatile, I can observe that emotion and mirror that back to them with detached observation. So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I can say, it sounds like this situation is frustrating and difficult for you. When somebody is going, I'm furious, this is crazy, this is ridiculous, using all that emotive language, I interpret that emotion into kind of factual information to feedback so that we're, like you said, detaching and just focusing on the facts. There's a few things in terms of the tools that you're talking about, Cecilia, that we know in science that psychologists will often talk about detaching from that trauma, separating yourself from it. So it's either physically removing yourself from the space where it's actually occurred and going and read and self-regulating again. But it's also detaching from the situation. And I like to think it's like an out of body experience where you're observing the information and the facts and speaking to that rather than taking yourself emotively into the experience. The other thing about the cylinder tool really helps you do that. But what is really interesting about that as well is that the amygdala, which is a very primal part of our brain, which has the fight or flight response, it doesn't know the difference between real or perceived stress. It
Yes.
is just a
Yes.
primal response. And it goes, I'm under attack, whether it's via a predator like a crocodile or whether it's a boss having a go at you. It goes, my well-being is under attack here. Send
Yes.
out the soldiers to protect us, which is the cortisol and the adrenaline and all of those hormones that help us as a species survive. So the cylinder tool tricks the amygdala into going, there is a barrier here, there is a shield. Those words can't penetrate your soul and deflate you. They're going to bounce off that shield and you will be safe and you will be okay. But from that safe shield, you can see the facts and the information and be able to process that. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. I do love the cylinder tool.
me too.
Yes. I love
Yeah.
sharing that tool with others. But hopefully, not too many people we come across have a need for such a tool.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. I think that we do sometimes see people though, Cecilia, don't we? Like those people that are the first point of contact for people. So it's, you spoke in the last podcast cast about the attendant at the airport when you arrived, sleep deprived, distressed, downgraded from in your seat and irritated that this person handled the situation with such emotional intelligence and assertive communication techniques. And
Mm-hmm.
it's those people. It is the people at reception. It is the people, the ambulance, the paramedics, the police officers, the bank teller. They're the people that have to, they're like the soldiers at the front of
Yes.
the army, moving forward.
Yes.
They're the first ones that are going to take the first in the firing line.
The
Yeah.
customer service agents
Yeah.
on the phone.
Yeah. And so they deal with that a
Imagine what they have
lot.
to go through. Yeah, imagine the number of cranky people they have to deal with on a given day.
Yeah.
Mm.
And interestingly, in Australia now, we have legislation around that in terms of that's hurts, that's damaging, and it does impact upon our health and our well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So the workplace has to mitigate that risk by letting people recover. And what we know too from burnout is that to recover from burnout, you have to have the downtime. So, what we've seen in Australia, in particular with paramedics, is more and more they're understaffed and under-resourced, and in more demand, and they have less downtime to wind down from those call outs. And because they don't get that recovery time, they're burning out quicker. So now in any workplace, we need that. whatever it is, we actually, if we have a high intensity, stressful situation, like dealing with difficult people on the front line, we actually need break. We need to
Yes,
have that recovery time.
yes, yes,
Cecilia, I want to ask you on this
yes,
topic, uh, what if we know, you were talking about with Luminous Spark and overextending, where your strength gets overextended. What are some strategies then if you know that someone is a completely different person to you, a different personality style, communication style, behavioral style? What do we do to not only regulate ourselves, but regulate them?
yes. So, a lot of communication experts will say, including the two of us, that if you want to influence, you want to communicate in the style of the recipient. And if it's in a completely different style than yours, then it would help to do some homework. Are they more direct and punchy communicators, or are they more visionary and they like to see the big picture? What kind of words would you include, and how would you phrase your comments? And I think we touched upon this in the last podcast. It's tone. Tone is so important. So if someone who's more red, who's more direct, you want to be speedy and you want to be to the point and you want to be quick and speak in short spurts versus someone who's more green in energy, which is the S in dis, you want to be a little bit more familial and you want to connect more and and have use a gentle tone. So knowing the other's personality style can help, but I would warn to be careful. So you don't want to stereotype and you don't want to
Yeah.
box
You
someone.
don't want
You don't want to
pigeonhole
you don't want to
people.
box someone and then
Yeah.
and then start using very flowery language because you think they are big picture thinkers. That could be annoying. So
And it becomes
it needs to be
insincere sometimes too if we're too contrived. Yeah, it's
yes,
hard. It's a
yes,
hard balance. I'm laughing because if you think about those, we've had this conversation privately. I'm a very, if we talk about disc, I'm very I. What color is that in Luminous Spark? It's yellow, isn't it? Is that
yellow,
right?
inspired
Yeah,
yellow.
yeah, yeah. And so I can come across a little too bright and cheery. And my husband, as I've explained to you, is the S. He's the green. And so in the morning, my energy is incredibly irritating to him. So he says I get up like Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music. I start spinning with a great smile, going, "Morning! The hills are alive!" And it's like, "Oh, don't talk to me." And I know there's people listening who's just going, "Oh my God, I'm with your husband." Don't. We actually drink this coffee, and the name of the coffee, it's beautiful. The name of the coffee is called Before You Speak. It's like, don't talk to me, don't make me talk until I've had a coffee.
I think we have similar mornings, Barb. But it's so funny when we look at our Lumina profiles. Like I am yellow, red, green, blue, and you are red, yellow,
Yeah.
green, blue.
Yeah,
So
right.
we're very similar. It's just my yellow is just a little higher than yours.
Yeah, right.
A
Is that
little bit
even
more yellow.
possible? That's saying something. Like if you can hear me on this podcast or you can see me, that's really saying something. She's off the scale.
Yeah. I am, but we're both very extroverted, and it makes us very committed to doing this type of work. We're in our zone. We love doing this. We love being in front of groups of people, and I just feel very blessed that I found my calling. I'm doing what my strengths are, and I'm doing what I love.
And that's an interesting point too. I know we're a little bit off on topic here, and maybe this is something we talk about in another podcast. We always do this, and this is what this style does too, go off on these tangents and talk about things. But when you do work to your strengths, you live a life of
Mm,
joy. You would do well at work. You don't consume unnecessary energy. You're in the flow. All of those things happen when you really can tap into your design, your behavioral design, your personality design, and work with it rather than against it. And then things come into
Oh,
flow.
absolutely. And I do love helping people find what those strengths are and how to magnify them because when we play in our strengths and our top values, wow, there is joy at work. And I think that's the one thing that we both are completely aligned on. How do people find joy and fulfillment in work? And
Mm.
the one of the top things to do is find your strengths and really use them at work. And I know we're totally off topic because we haven't talked about the yuck sandwich,
I
which
know, I really want to
we
get to
we
that.
we got to in the last podcast, but we just didn't have time. So let's talk about the yuck sandwich. What is your take on it? And just so everyone is clear, please, Barb, explain what a yuck sandwich is.
It's it's a very traditional communication model, and it's popular because it's simple. It's easy to remember, and it was recommended to me by my early leadership mentors as a tool that I could apply for me leading others when I was working in those roles. And so the philosophy is there's lots of different terms that's given to it. Some people call it the kiss, kick, kiss,
Mm.
which I'm a bit reluctant to use because when you write that up on a whiteboard, the acronym it's KKK, and it's not something I want to leave in a training
No,
room before
no.
I leave. It doesn't kind of goes against the grain of what you're trying to achieve, really. Anyway, back on topic. So the philosophy is that you
Oh,
the philosophy is that
yes.
the philosophy
Uh-huh.
is that you sandwich really
Yes.
the yucky stuff, the negative feedback.
Yes.
You sandwich that with some positive, with some
Yes.
fluff, right? And so it is my mentor said, he said it's like you have the nice fluffy white bread, the pooey stuff, the yucky stuff, the horrible stuff that you have to swallow, and then the nice white fluffy bread. So you start with a positive, punch them with a negative, and then finish with a positive. Some people love it, and
Really?
some
I can't
people
imagine.
really.
Yeah.
I
I'm
used to
not I'm
like
not a
it.
fan.
Yeah, tell
I
me
am
why you're not a
not a
fan.
fan.
Tell me why.
Well, it's interesting. I've never heard of the KKK.
Kiss,
Anyway,
it's
okay.
kiss, kick, kiss. Yes. Yeah.
Kiss, kick, kiss. Okay. So in Toastmasters, they call it the hamburger model. So same thing, sandwich. So I have never liked it because you never truly get to enjoy the praise, the positive, because that
Mm,
constructive feedback or that negative feedback is so prominent. So I feel like it's being really unfair. And then sometimes the positive comments are contrived because you want to pad it, to pad what you really want to say. So in all my training, in all my coaching and mentoring training, I've always said, just keep it separate because it's not fair to the person. If you're giving them praise, just tell them are doing this really well and be specific. Well done, off you go. And then
yeah.
the constructive feedback, focus on that. And we shared a number of models, and we can share the model in the show notes again. Some simple models, and and it doesn't have to be hurtful. It can be a two-way dialogue. So I much prefer giving feedback using this model, a two-way dialogue. So what are your thoughts on this? What can we do together to help you improve? But yes, I've never been fond of the yuck sandwich.
I agree with you, Cecilia. And the feedback that I've got from people is that it sometimes people, if you do use a sandwich, people don't hear the constructive stuff. They just hear the good stuff, or they just focus in on that. And I'll read for you a case study around that in just a minute, a
Yes.
funny little story.
Yes.
Um, the other thing, like you said, it can sound disingenuous. So you're coming up with something that's really fluffy and flaky and nice just for the sake of being nice. So it can come across as disingenuous and inauthentic, and people know what's coming. And when I first started using this, I was a huge fan of it because it made the process easier for me. People, my team started to know what I was doing. They're going, "You're doing that poo sandwich, aren't you? You're doing that yuck sandwich." And they
Mm,
knew what I was doing with them. So it felt, it was almost like they could see through me. I will say, however, is that where I have found that it does work is I would never, ever, and really want to reinforce this to people, is never have those difficult conversations via text or email. It is like
mm,
throwing kerosene on a fire, because tone,
mm.
as we've talked about, is something that we interpret in what we're reading. There can be any variation
So
of that
true.
tone.
Hmm.
However, if you are forced into a situation where you cannot communicate with somebody other than through an email, that is where I've found that the yuck sandwich can be useful in the communication. So if I straight out in an email go say something really, really negative, it's like hitting you over the head with it. Whereas I can sandwich it by saying, by using that methodology. That's the only time I've perhaps found it useful, but I just really want to reiterate, I would never want to be in a situation where I choose to do that. It's where I have no choice and I have to communicate. I'm left with the only resource is to email somebody. Then I would
So,
utilize that.
so overall, then, would you say yay or nay to the yuck
Nay.
sandwich?
Nay. But if you've got nothing else, and
Yeah.
it's better than nothing, but there are better methods to have that communication. So I want to share two things with you, Cecilia, on this topic, and we'll keep talking about it. I'll share with you a
Yes.
case study of where it's failed. I also want to
Yes.
share with you, if we get the chance, to talk to you about some research where negative feedback actually backfires, and there is an
Yes.
alternative to that. So this is the case study, which is quite
Yes.
funny, quite funny, I think.
Yes.
Kylie was a team leader in a regional council office known for her cheery attitude, color coded spreadsheets, and intense fear of making anyone feel bad. I feel like I'm Kylie. So, when she had to give Trent feedback about his constant late arrival and tendency to treat deadlines as loose suggestions, she went to the classic feedback sandwich. Except Kylie, bless her, made it more of a feedback buffet. She started the meeting with a compliment about his PowerPoint font choice. It's so clean, so modern. Followed by a 10-minute tangent on how hard mornings can be, especially in winter, especially with traffic, even though he lived 2 minutes from the office. Then came more compliments. You bring
Oh
such a
dear.
you bring such a vibe to the team. You make great toast during team breakfast. Your laugh is memorable. By the end of the meeting, Trent walked out thinking he was up for a promotion. 2 days
Oh
later,
dear.
he arrived at 10:45 with a bacon and egg roll and loudly announced he was bringing the vibe, while another team member quietly printed out the attendance policy and slid it under Kylie's door.
Oh boy. So poor Kylie. I mean, this is a really clear example of someone who finds it hard to give constructive feedback. We have to give credit to them, however, for doing their homework in preparing for this. And maybe using a different model may have been helpful.
I think it's like what you communicated, particularly about in our last podcast about the airline. It's just not dancing around the facts, being very clear about this is where things are at, and this may, and especially we talked about unconscious incompetence. Trent thinks he's amazing. He's got no idea. He thinks he's bringing a vibe. And once again, by using that sandwich, he's only hearing the white bread. He's not hearing or seeing or observing anything that she's trying to communicate. So she needs to be very clear, specific, and communicate the facts and the choices that he has in that situation, rather than dancing around it.
So how would you coach Kylie in this situation?
Oh, that's a good question. I think this kind of reminds me almost of passive aggressive behavior. It's like wanting
Mm,
to say something but not having the tools.
mm,
So I think that along the lines of what you said in the last podcast, Cecilia, this might come as a surprise to you. I need to communicate something from you. And I think using the I language is the emotional intelligence perspective. So Kylie to say, for me to do my job and for me as a leader to support others in the team, I'm going to need this from you.
mm,
Is that something that you can achieve? Is that within your scope? Is that achievable? Can you do that? And if not, then you've got something to work with. So starting with that question, going, I need this from you. And
mm,
so Trent could object and go, no way, that's not in my scope. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what I agreed to. Or, yeah, certainly I can do that. I had no idea that this was an issue. We are bringing the issue to the surface, and that's what we always want to do in that communication. So, likewise with passive aggressive communication, if someone is being passive aggressive to you, you actually want to call them out and say, what are you actually trying to say there? Do you have an opinion about what I've said, the work, whatever? You want to bring the issue to the surface in a factual way. So that would be my advice to Kylie is talk about the assertive communication is communicating what you want and what you need in order to do the job. I'm going to need this from you. Here are the options. What's within
yes.
your, how can we negotiate this? Yeah.
Yes, yes, and not beat around the bush and not
Yeah.
say, "Hey, Trent, how are you doing? How are things at home?" Just cut straight to it. Trent, I just want to talk to you about something. I no, not I just. I would like to talk to you about something that will make a difference for the effectiveness in our meetings.
Why did you change your language then?
Well, we discussed this to eliminate the word just
Yeah.
from our vocabulary because it is passive.
Yes. That's why I
Yeah.
pulled you up on it. I do it all the time and I've really watched myself, particularly in the last couple of days, particularly as somebody who is selling service and going into those conversations. I just wanted to touch base. I just wanted to check in and changing my language to say, I'm checking in to get your thoughts
Yes.
and feedback on the proposal that I put to you. And it's the same thing. It's all a negotiation, whether it's selling something or getting someone selling the idea of doing your job to somebody. We're negotiating and getting them on board with
Yes.
something. Yeah.
So are we done with the yuck sandwich?
Yeah. And I want in yes, let's be done with the yuck sandwich. One of the things I wanted to discuss with you, Cecilia, this interesting research, this actually came from, have I got it in here? No, it was something about how negative feedback is not always helpful.
Oh, yes.
These are tough things. How do we and maybe this is something we discuss in our next podcast in terms of time. It's a big subject. But how do we
Mm,
deliver that material or that information in a way that it is caring for the other person, that they have an opportunity to develop and grow?
hmm Yes. So instances where negative feedback can backfire.
Yeah. It
Is that
doesn't
right?
have, yeah. Um, and people, we've seen that, and this is what happens for me in mediations. Let's say I tell you that you're not doing a great job, and I don't deliver that in a way that is supportive of you. So naturally, you become defensive. You try to
Mm,
defend your choice, your behaviors, your work ethic, your professionalism, your decisions. And there's a term for it in terms of psychology when you hold a belief and you try and defend that belief, whether you truly believe it or not. Do you know what I mean? Like you've put it out there, so you want to defend it, rather than going, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I did get that wrong. That's the ideal situation. But if we deliver bad news ineffectively, it can make it worse. Am I making
Mm,
sense?
It has to be done with the right intention. So I think we said that we would talk about the number one skill. The skill itself is active listening in delivering bad news. So it seems like I'm delivering the news. Why am I listening? Active listening is
Yeah.
really taking in the whole situation and allowing your words to land, really staying curious, staying grounded, and being firm. We share the model like give them the news, and we share the do's and don'ts in the last podcast, and then just allow the information to sink in, and offer some support, offer some some steps moving forward.
And
Now
it's,
that is this. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Cecilia. Um, I love the curiosity thing and the active listening thing. And I love what you said. It's like, how can I listen when I'm supposed to be the bearer of the news, the bad news?
Yes,
How am
yes.
I the listener in that situation?
To really take it in, and there will be moments where there will be an opportunity to really truly connect, and we said this in the last podcast, is really be present with this person, and that is the key to sustaining that relationship, not ruining the relationship. Now, active listening is always going to be a key skill in building relationships, all relationships.
What we talked
I
about in
will.
the, sorry, Cecilia, go again.
Yes, go ahead.
We talked about in the last podcast, we talked a lot about empathy.
Mm,
And this is a tricky situation. This is a fine line. It's a thin edge of whether or not we save or damage the relationship in this situation. And the one element that can greatly impact people's capacity to build trust, to repair relationships, to have rapport is with the empathy, is to apply empathy.
yes. And it doesn't come naturally to everyone. So that's where the skill of active listening, just pausing, observing, paraphrasing, those are all learnable skills to empathy, which is the skill of active listening. So I wanted to just take two steps back and say, yes, that is the skill. And then really focus on what's your intention. Check in on the intention. What is it that you're hoping to achieve? What is the right thing to do in this situation? And delivering bad news is always going to be tough. We're human. No matter how direct, how cold-hearted this person is, it's still going to be challenging.
Yes.
So check your intentions at the door. And I think we've said this is in giving feedback, this is in delivering bad news. If there's no trust, it will backfire. There needs to be this spirit of trust that your intentions are in the right space.
Mm.
And have you seen this movie Up in the Air with George Clooney? Up in the Air.
I have, where he's always traveling on airlines. I've seen it a long time ago. I can't remember what happened in the movie, but I remember I liked it.
He's a consultant hired to fire people, and so it's actually an excellent study of how to deliver bad news. And it's a movie, it's a Hollywood movie, so there are a lot of storylines there. But George Clooney, there's some movie clips that I use in my training in how he practices active listening, and he really does his homework, and he brings a human side to delivering bad news. there's a scene, it's one of my favorite scenes. He's in a room with the junior intern, played by, I forget her name, this really, really smart, really talented actress. And they're delivering the bad news to J.K. Simmons. And it took a moment, but he turned that up, turned a potentially combative conversation into reframing it into something very uplifting for the receiver. So
Mm,
I won't ruin the movie for you. It's a great scene, and he got that through active listening
yes.
and doing his homework. He did his preparation. He reviewed this man's background, and he was able to use that. But he didn't use it all prepared. He waited for the right moment. He knew that he it could backfire if he didn't use it with the right setup.
Wow, I so want to rewatch that movie now. Do you
It's one
know
of my, yes, it's a great movie.
one of the things that is a when we are absent of active listening, we fall into the trap of assumption. And quite often in mediations, when I am preparing people to go into mediations, I talk to them about assumption and what assumption means. And so we interpret information that serves a belief that we have. That's how assumption works. So we have this belief and we look for evidence of that, and we start to create a theory of why people are behaving a certain way, why people have said things a certain way. And what I find interesting in mediations is that it gets so deviated from the reality of what's actually happened. People have completely misinterpreted information because they've seen what they've wanted to see to validate their opinion or their belief. That person hates me. That person doesn't trust me. That person's checking up on me. That person's out to get me, right? And it's really interesting how information's been misinterpreted. So,
Mm,
what I love about the Buddhist philosophy is nothing is permanent. They talk about, I'm going to really mess this up, but it's the constant suffering, as in everything is changing all the time. And
yes,
so, whatever you believe to be true isn't. Perhaps there is always another perspective, and only with curiosity and active listening can we find the story we didn't know exist. If we
hmm,
hold on to our assumption, we never get to know that alternative storyline, that
yes,
other story that we didn't see, the sliding doors of a situation in terms of, wow, there is a completely different view. It reminds me of a paparazzi photo of Prince William. Looks like he's flipping the bird, looks like he's doing a really
mm,
rude sign with his finger. But when you actually see the photograph from another angle, he's doing something completely different with his fingers. It's just the perspective that you see is masking the fingers so that like he's saying hello to somebody or is doing something like that. And I think that that's the same in terms of these mediations and these difficult conversations. We're only seeing one point of view, but by having active listening, we get to hear things we didn't hear otherwise. And active listening is not just hearing. It is
yes,
reading between the lines. It's looking at the body language. It's getting breadcrumbs of something else that means something else.
yes. Um, you just made me think of that blue dress, gold dress internet
Yeah.
sensation. So I don't know if that would be a great tool to use in mediation to say, what do you see? And you're both right.
Yes.
It depends on I believe a certain um, something in your brain in how you see colors.
It's the same with coriander. Did we have this conversation in Phuket, Cecilia?
Maybe, maybe.
I
Is it some?
love, I love coriander. Love it.
Yes,
Love it.
yes.
This friend of mine thinks
Love
it's,
it.
yeah. So this friend of mine thinks it's evil. He just thinks, why would anybody think this tastes nice? It's disgusting. And it's a big joke between the two of us. Like he just
Yes.
is so anti-coriander. Like it's a travesty if we're at a function and they've got coriander in the hors d'oeuvres or whatever. And I think it's hilarious. And there is this group of people, and I know there'll be people listening going, yes, I hate coriander. But apparently, recent research has found that it's a genetic thing, so that for certain people, it tastes like soap
Yes.
for a group of people. And it's like that gold dress, blue dress thing. It is just we get fixated. So my friend going is fixed with the idea that there's no possibility that anyone could think that this tastes nice. It's a lie.
Mm.
Similar sort
Well,
of
you
thing.
said you said don't assume, and you also said earlier, don't we said don't take it personally. So I feel like I want to wrap up with the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I love the Four Agreements, and they're just simple, really powerful agreements to live by. Be impeccable with your word, which I think is very important when delivering bad news and in all communication, but be impeccable with your word. Two, do not assume. Three is do not take things personally. And the fourth one, always do your best. Great agreements to live by for a happy, productive, rewarding, fulfilling life. So
Mm.
simple and yet so difficult and challenging at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. You can unpack each one of those with great
Mm,
complexities as well. Love it.
mm. Yes, yes. I think our time is up, Barb, and let's just see what do we have coming up.
So we've got masterclasses where you and I deliver masterclasses regularly on this topic and unpack more of these tools and provide people with more research, case studies, and tools that people can apply. So the next one we've got coming up is Kind Words, Tough Talks, which you're delivering, Cecilia.
Yes, yes,
And I'm really excited to be able to participate and learn from that. So, the strategies, we're going to get some real strategies from you on how to communicate that difficult news, how to be empathetic, and how to create our own authentic style in terms of approaching those challenging conversations, delivering bad news, and how to prepare for those. I'm really looking forward to that.
it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it as well. It was great chatting with you as always, Barb.
Thanks.